potential to work as salt, as he was talking about salt in our world. Just think of a time recently when you said something that made a difference for Christ. Now think of a time when you said or didn't say something that was out of character for you. And think about those two instances. What can you learn from them? How can you be more intentional in how you use your words or your silence for God's glory? See, the identity God has called you to is to be one of a difference maker. So spend time in prayer and just reflection, asking God how He wants to use you as a difference maker in your world of influence. And guys, when you ask that, He will do that. He will show you. He will bring people into your life. He will bring instances come up. And it's a learning process. And there'll be times you'll fail miserably at it, but there'll be times where you say things and you're like, whoa, man, that had to be God, because I don't say those things. And it's just awesome to see Him work. All right, we're going to keep doing this. First, how I met the dog. Just because I like to tell stories, and here's one of them. Hang on, here we go.
Time for how I met the doc, 'cause I like to make up lots of stuff, and I wait to see how he'll respond. My stories never let me down, so sit back and grab a cup of coffee, just don't spit it up. I'll tell the tale my heart desires of how I met the doc. I cannot promise that all these stories are true. I can't even tell you where they come from. Mischievous, and they are all funny.
All right, how I met the doc. Well, you see, back when I was in the Marine Corps, it was me and a PFC, and the Marines aren't the brightest bulbs on the tree. And one day we're out, our sergeant had told us to go measure this telephone pole. So we kept trying to climb it, and we kept sliding down. And then along comes this really big schmuck Navy guy called the Doc. And he comes up and he says, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" So us two Marines say, we're trying to measure the height of this pole. So the Doc, he wraps his arms around the pole, pulls it out of the ground, lays it down, measures it, and he picks it back up, puts it back in the ground and says, 40 feet, and he just walks away. So I look at the other not too bright PFC Marine with me, and I say about the Doc, I say, what an idiot. We wanted the height, not the length. And that's how I met the Doc.
It doesn't matter if you don't like my tales. You should know how we love rabbit trails. If you don't like it, then start up your own show. Ridiculous, mischievous, and they are all funny.
Oh, those just make me laugh. It's funny, sometimes my wife is like, you can't say that. Well, too late, I already did. Hey, all right. Hey, I want to let you guys know, we're planning a manUP trip to Israel in late February, might be early March, 2019. We're going to keep it small. We're going to hike. We're planning all this right now, but I want to let you guys know in case you're interested. Let me know. We're only going to have 10 spots. I think half of them are already taken. So we're going to hike through northern part of Israel. We're going to have a van because we know guys will go down. And trying to get the doc in shape to make the trip. He can be the van man, our medic in the van, patch us together every night, bring us food and water. But we're going to hike through there, stop in towns. But so far it looks like 2 of my 3 son-in-laws will be going. And they're both do worship, so it'll be awesome, man. We'll have campfires at night, have some worship time, some time in the Word, just a bunch of guys hiking through Israel. We will have time in Jerusalem, and we're trying to set up a day where we go down and, at least float in the Dead Sea for a couple hours. But we'll be hiking along the Mediterranean and go from Galilee down towards Jerusalem. But as we plan it out, we don't want to kill ourselves. And I got to drop about 50 pounds before we do this so I can make the hike. But that's a plan. And drop me an email, gunny@manupshow.org if you're interested. And we'll get you more information on that. So there'll be more information on that coming up. Keep checking the website, www.manupshow.org. We'll have updates on that at the website. And then if it's something you're interested in, let us know as soon as possible, because those spaces will go fast. And then you'll miss out. But if it goes well and we come back with at least 8 out of the 10 guys, then we'll do it again. Maybe the following year. We'll see what happens. But that's my goal. Come back with 80% of the guys. All right. Glasses. Hang on. Got to find my glasses here. All righty. Hate when they're hiding on your head and you don't know it. All right. Matthew 5:16, we did that one. Mark 9:35, that's where we're going to be now. 9:35, and he sat down and called the 12, and he said to them, if anyone would be first, he must be last of all and servant of all. Boy, those are never good words to hear, huh? All right. So before we finish looking at the concept of our identity, all right, we got to spend some time looking at one of Jesus's core teachings. I think it's one that many of us men, me included, we struggle with it. It's a teaching that's in stark contrast to the words we sometimes speak to ourselves about what it means to be a man. But it's a concept that is foundational to who Jesus wants us to be. All right, we're going to read Mark 33 through 37. Let me get that ready. All right, 9:33. Where did I mark this here? All right. And they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, what were you discussing on the way? But they kept silent, for on the way they had argued with one another about who was the greatest. Man, that's when you know you're busted, when Jesus says, all right, what were you talking about? Excuse me. All right. And he sat down, and he called the 12, and he said to them, if anyone would be first, he must be last of all and servant of all. And he took a child and put him in the midst of them. And taking him in his arms, he said to them, whoever receives one such child in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives not me, but him who sent me. right. All right, so Capernaum, which if you go to Israel with us, will be one of the cities we'll be going through. That was essentially Jesus' home base. All right, this is where Jesus and his disciples hung out the most. When we encountered Jesus and the guys in Matthew 9, they had been on a kind of walking tour of Galilee and the region to the north, which is where we will be. So Jesus, he'd been teaching, healing, performing miracles. Here we can almost see Jesus seated, kicked back in the house, possibly Peter's, but not the one we'll see there, teaching the disciples in a quiet moment there. Okay, but look at what Jesus says. He's essentially describing the economy of the king, the kingdom. It's as if he's saying, man, listen up, guys, because this is pretty different from how the world sees things. And then he tells them to be great is to be a servant. To be strong means to be weak. To be first is to be last. I mean, what a countercultural message then and even now, especially now. This is the opposite of what our cultural understanding of what it means to be a man. I mean, think about that. To be great is to be a servant. The world doesn't teach us that. To be strong means to be weak. To be first, to be last. So, I mean, often in our world, being a man is all about pursuing power and authority. It's crushing the weak. It's being the guy out front or at the top. And yet this isn't at all how the Bible describes being a man. Jesus says here and elsewhere that greatness in God's eyes is sacrificing for the good of others. It's looking at our spouses, our children, our employees, our friends, everyone in our life, and asking, how can I live in such a way as to always be lifting these people up? Servanthood is using your life to make other people's lives better. It's leveraging all of who you are to empower, equip, and encourage those around you. And it's at the very heart of your identity as a Christ follower. So why is this such a hard concept for us to implement into our lives? What is it about seeing ourselves as less than others that seems to strike at the heart of our understanding of masculinity? Because, I don't know about you, but growing up, I mean, that isn't what I was taught. Don't get me wrong, my dad was awesome. I mean, he did everything he could for us, for myself and my two brothers, but weakness was never an option. If you go to Philippians 2, 3, and 4, where Paul writes, he writes, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. See, in verse 4, Paul, he seems to give us a strategy toward actually implementing this concept. What does he say is the key to seeing ourselves as servants? Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. So guys, think about what has to happen in your hearts for you to begin to see the needs of others. What has to happen in your heart to be aware of what your wife needs?